Welcome to the Beats from the True Wellness Center. I'm your host, Kelly Kennedy. And the Beats is truly from my heart to yours to help you empower and inspire you to learn how the body actually does work. I am bringing you my friends, my colleagues, the most incredible minds from around the world that I have been able to learn from. And I want to share them all with you. So that's what the Beats is really about, is teaching people what I've been able to learn about how the body works and trying to give that to you in a very simple and practical way to give you things to change your life, because you got this. This is all about you and having the ability to heal your own body from within. And that's really my message, is from my heart to yours. Welcome to the Beats. Welcome to learning how your body works, and welcome to opening your heart. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time and your attention as we focus in on this week's episode of The Beats. Welcome back to The Beats. From my heart to yours, this is Kelly Kennedy from the True Wellness Center, and I'm very excited about this long time coming podcast with Sarah Eckhard, who will soon not be Sarah Eckhard anymore. But Sarah has been working with us for about 2.5 years, 3 years. 2.5 years. She started this podcast with me, so this is completely full circle. But I really wanted everybody to get to know Sarah in many ways, but mostly about today is really about her story and what brought her into True Wellness and why she is the passionate, incredible fairy version doppelganger of me and her little fairy buns today. She dressed so appropriately. I thought about her and wore a necklace that she gave me, and she also gave herself. You know, that's how we do it. We buy gifts for each other, and then we also buy them for ourselves. So we share a necklace. She didn't even think about it. She was more concerned about her fairy buns in her hair, and she looks very cute. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining us on The Beats that you helped me start.
Thank you. This is fun already.
So Sarah has been through a journey in her life, as so many of us have. And a lot of times people walk in and they want to come in and, get some body work at True Wellness, or they're working with the whole team and they meet Sarah and they're like, oh, the first thing they go is, she's so young. And then they start talking to her and they go, maybe she's not so young. How old are you anyway? Why are you so wise? How did you get to be where you are? Just 23 years younger than Kelly. So she's 24 now, but Sarah and I started really 25, that's right, because I'm 48. Yeah, that was bad math. I was thinking I was 47 still. She started working with us right prior to COVID, and the story goes about Sarah is we knew her whole family. Actually, we knew her in-laws that she's about to marry into before we knew anybody in her family, because they referred her mother, and then her mother brought her sister and her brother, and we knew all of them. And we kept hearing about this Sarah, this infamous Sarah, this yoga instructor that's so in alignment with what we do, but we still had yet to meet this infamous Sarah. And then Sarah walked in the door, and with a very intense journey on her shoulders and in her heart, or covering her heart maybe, and we started working together, her and I and myself and the team, and unfolds her story, which is what we're here to tell today. That being said, that was just the beginning. And when we were working together in June of 19, I said to her, hey, Desiree Desprong, the lymph goddess, is coming over from New Zealand, and she's going to be teaching a class. We need to make sure that you're in that class, because I know somehow we're going to work together. I don't know how it's going to go down, but I know your heart, I know who you are, and I definitely want you on my team. So she took the class, and all those months later, like 8 months later or something, I called her, was like, now's the time. Of course, coincidentally, right after she sent an email. Well, we'll let her tell that story, but there's a lot here. I'm going to shut up because I'm the extrovert, she's the introvert, and here's how this podcast is going to go. Outside of that, we're the same person.
Yeah. I mean, I loved that. I mean, I interviewed in June And I emailed back in December and was like, I really am done with the 5 jobs. I can't pay my bills. I would like to be doing something meaningful. I emailed Julie. I was like, I think that it's time that we come together and have another discussion. And Julie was like, okay, Kelly just told me yesterday to email you because we needed to bring you in because we finally have a job. It's like, well, great. I'll come in. And I think like a month later, I started working here, 2 months later.
And then like a month, 3 weeks after that, COVID hit, and I was like, "Oh, okay, let's figure something else out." And the journey began for a second time. But this is about the first journey. So I wanted to share. I wanted Sarah to share her story because so many of us, we go through all sorts of physical journeys, emotional journeys. We see how they're connected together at some level, but we maybe don't understand it, number one. Number two, one of the core values at True Wellness is to be curious over judgment. And being in this industry for since I was 23, and Sarah starting in this industry in bioregulatory medicine at 23, I understood completely that when people walk in and we edify this person that's going to be this amazing practitioner that's been all over the world, and they show up and they see this 23-year-old at the time, they're like, huh? Where's this really well-versed practitioner? And experience is what really creates our personality and our personal reality and our ability to respond and work through life experiences and all of life and live life to the fullest is really what life is about, right? And here is a woman that really lives life. She's grounded on every level, and she really has exemplified what True Wellness really has to offer. And she did it pretty fast, in all honesty, because she did not mince time. She came in and said, okay, this is what you're telling me to do. Let's just do it. And that's where she and I aligned in so many ways, that I really felt there were not a lot of people that have walked in our door that are like, I get this, like you get this, and I'm jumping in with both feet at 180% and let's go. So now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to start. Where did it start for you? That's my perspective. Where did your journey begin? The first, well, maybe not the first journey, but the journey of health of which we're speaking of today. Where did that start for you?
So, can I say when I was born? I know that's not what you're looking for. When I was 17, probably just about to turn 18. I mean, I was not like probably the picture of health by any means, but I was compensating and I was like pretty good. I was filling out job application or college applications. I was a senior in high school. I was going to graduate. I was going to do all the things you were supposed to do and go to college. And I had a job that I wanted and an industry that I really wanted to get into. Never felt super aligned with that, but was like, all right, this is what you do. You go to college, you figure it out. So I was on that journey, and about a week into my senior year of high school, after at that point I had been with my high school boyfriend about 4 years. We were together from like 13 to almost 18. A week into senior year, he killed himself. And that kind of, I'm not supposed to curse on this, but like fucked the whole plan up. Because it was just so suddenly like nothing mattered that used to matter. I had no interest in college. I had no interest in school anymore. He was very much like larger than life kind of thing. So I just decided to like take that on and was like, I'm just going to somehow get through this year. And then I'm just going to live. And it very quickly, it became evident to me that I really looked to him to give me a lot of love and validation, which he did to a really extreme extent. So I didn't really ever need to find it for myself. I didn't really need to feel it in my own body because I had this person that was just kind of pouring it on to me. And then he was gone and all of that was gone. so I kind of went like, oh, there's no one that is going to do this for me. There's no one that's going to give me this except for myself. So while that was not like the first thought that I had right away, it was more like I think that I still, the first like 3 months, I still don't really have any memories. But I came out of it as I got my head above water, going like, okay, I need to love myself. Don't know what that means yet. And I always kind of had someone attached to my hip. I'm realizing I'm very uncomfortable alone. And now all of the people around me are really nervous to leave me alone.
Concerned, yeah. Because let's just say you didn't have any signs, right? Like you're, is it okay to say his name?
Yeah, yeah, Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley. So Wesley, like you guys were together for 4.5 years, and your families were very connected, and it was like a betrothed almost at some level, from what it sounds like. I mean, I wasn't part of it, but it was, not that you were betrothed, but it kind of felt like, okay, these two people are meant to be together, and the families had come together, and this was going to be your life, and there was no signs that he was going to commit suicide. Did you see him as a depressed person or anything like that? Because I think that's an important piece of the story. I don't want, because some people, oh, she was a teenager, she was married, with a teenager that was full of chaos and crisis and was a mess. That was not Wesley, from what I understand. Not at all.
No, this was like the definition of the blind side. No, I mean it was, we were together for since we were 12, 13. I mean, we were best friends. We spent all of our time together. Our families were best friends. I spent a lot of time with it. I mean, his parents were my parents, my siblings were his siblings. It was very much integrated, and my family is a family of monogamists. And all of them. I mean, my sister has been with her now husband for 18 years, since I was 9 years old. My brother has been with his wife since they were 16. Like the fact that we met when we were 13 and like fell in love, and like it was very standard for the Eckhards. That's very foreign for a lot of people now.
They fall fast, they fall hard, and they fall forever.
Yeah. And we're all very grounded people, and we never had relationships that were tumultuous, and we were kind of like, no, it's going to be real easy right from the start. And so I knew him, I thought, in every aspect, and we did not see any of the heartache from him. In hindsight, I think that a lot of what was happening was kind of like a bipolar play. I mean, we saw like the mania. He was crazy. He was like always doing crazy stuff, and like jumping off of here, and everywhere we went, he talked to everyone, and like always had these crazy ideas. If you asked him what he wanted to be when he was older, he would have told you Indiana Jones. 100%. So, we saw this kind of like big, vibrant, like ball of energy, and had no idea that what was being kept from us was apparently these extremely low lows and like dismal pieces of him that he just kind of hid from us. And everyone knew him, that like the whole school knew him. He was like the Ferris Bueller. That's like a good way to put it. Like he knew all these different groups of people.
Right.
And he was that person to everyone. So this was like, it's like doesn't fit into words how like bizarre. Like it felt like I entered a parallel universe of like, whoa, this is not whatever was supposed to happen. And what just like I kept thinking like I'm gonna wake up at some point, like this, none of this makes sense. So I was also like confused and like feeling betrayed and feeling abandoned and feeling like I had something kept from me. So I had all of these things of like anger, betrayal, abandonment, sadness, heartbreak, sad for him, sad for his parents. It was like this whole stew of just like explosive emotions that just kind of blended into this mishmash of like, I'm just gonna like black out a little bit because it's so much all at once.
And that's what happens with all sorts of traumas of any kind in our lives, right? We kind of like shut down. We're in shock. And then, as you said, and I interrupted, I apologize, but you brought your head up above water a few months later, and everything had changed. And no more did you have that focal point to tell you which direction to head. You needed to figure that out. And the one thing you knew was that you didn't like to be alone. So here you are, 17 years old, had been slated to go to college like everybody else, go to school, get good grades, get into a good college, find a career that's going to make you money. And Sarah woke up and was like, yeah, that's not working for me anymore. And most teenagers, I would say at that point, would have parents that would not support that. Be like, no, go to college, put your head down, just stay on your path, stay on your track. But that's not what happened, is it?
No, it's not the Eckhard way. No, I mean, and I will say the pressure of college, it felt very societal, but it was never from my family. I mean, although that's what all of us did, it never felt like that pressure. And I was kind of feeling like I had to do it. And they were the ones that sat me down and went like, you can do anything. Like, you don't have to go to college. Just do something. Like, we just want you to have some plan, but we don't really care what it was. Especially at that point, they were like, literally anything that makes you happy, great, do that. That's literally the only thing we care about. So whatever that is, I don't think that they thought I would quite go as big as I went. I think because they were terrified at what I chose to do, which was ultimately, okay, I don't like to be alone, so I'm going to force myself to be alone for 4 months. And I pretty much spent like the back half of my senior year, because I didn't have to stress about college now, planning with one of my teachers, who's now my best friend, planning a trip to Europe for like 4 months. We had like an independent study where I read a bunch of travel books, and she had traveled a bunch, and we just mapped out like 3-4 months. And then I came to my parents and went, I'm leaving in September and I'll be back in December. And I'm going to go to Europe and I'll be fine. And I'll see you when I get back. And I think they were really good at keeping their mouths shut. And I know that they were terrified. But it was just the fact of like, if I don't like this thing, I apparently need to force myself to do it. And I don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of 4 months alone in other countries, there's something that's going to be different. And I don't really care what it was, as long as there's something. So I was kind of like, yeah, we'll see what happens.
And, that takes a very special person. And we all have that ability to trust ourselves and trust that, as Sarah said, like she knew at the end of the day, you had to be okay to be alone with yourself, because if nothing but Wesley's experience taught her is that you got to be honest with yourself so you can be honest with others. I would imagine that was part of, and probably, I'm sure, part of your parents' worry. Like, just go be happy. Do whatever you want to be happy. Be happy, be happy, be happy. We want to make sure that you're happy and that you're not lying to us or lying to yourself or anything else. Just be happy. And so you went on this journey. You went to Europe, and what happened?
I mean, it was incredible. It's still one of my favorite trips I've ever taken. And really what I found while I was there was that there was a lot kind of changing around me, which I liked, but I had this one constant every day that was kind of, I realized was very accessible, which was doing yoga every day. Kind of no matter where I was, it was like all the cities around me can change, but like every morning I'm going to have, honestly, at that point, like 3 to 4 hours on my yoga mat to just explore and get to know my body a little bit, because I've been very disconnected, I think, my whole life. And that just, by the time I was coming home, I was like, okay, well, now I need another plan. And I kind of wanted to continue to travel and just never come back, but I should probably figure some things out. So the day, I'm still like that. Yeah. So the day that I got back, the next day, there was like an info meeting for the new yoga studio that opened in town for teacher training. So I went the next day off the plane, And then I think by the end of that day, I had signed up for teacher training and was like, this is it. I can make money. I can do the thing that I've realized I love. I can be flexible with my schedule. So I just went that full force. And for 6 months, probably like my training was only every other weekend for 6 months. But I think every single day I probably spent like 4 or 5 hours just like on my mat and kind of like steeped in it, just because all of the emotional, therapeutic, energetic aspect of it really got me kind of right away. And like the processing that could take place when I moved my body in certain ways was so intense that I was like, I feel like I did like 10 years of therapy in 6 months.
And had you done yoga prior to that trip to Europe?
I started doing it like every morning at the studio the summer before I left. And I had done it a few times a week since I was probably 16. I remember that was the first place I ever drove myself alone after I got my license to a yoga class. Um, so I had done it like here and there and kind of very lightly and always guided and didn't really quite understand it, just knew that I liked it. And then that summer, I was like, okay, it's the summer now. I'm out of school. I'm not seeing people. I need to do something every morning that's going to actually get me out of bed. So I'm going to go to yoga every morning.
Because you
And
were dealing
then,
with a way to handle your grief at that point.
yeah, I was just like, I'll stay under the covers the whole day if there's nothing to go to. So I'm just going to
So
drive
she
myself.
forced her body, like that she forced herself to do that and forced herself to be uncomfortable on that trip. And then came home, started yoga teacher training. And then what happened?
I taught for probably 2 years.
How was your physical health during that time period?
It was I think I still was like my physical body felt pretty good in terms of like movement, and but I think that there were just things that I didn't even know were supposed to be on my radar, like my digestion and my like things and my sleep that I didn't even really think about, which in hindsight were very out of whack. But there this kind of slow progression started with my skin where I like kind of like I mean, I never had great skin growing up, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm a kid, it's whatever. And then I was 19 and kind of like, I feel like in the span of like a month, my whole face broke out. And I just was suddenly like, oh my God, this is not normal. And this is excessive. And I don't know what's happening right now. So I started making the rounds to the different dermatologists. I was like, this doesn't feel really aligned, but I'll just go. And the answers I got from all three of them were, you can go on Accutane,
Ugh.
or you can go on birth control.
Oh, yeah, that's what they told me. Yeah, birth control for my acne. That's how I did it. So
Yeah.
she's going to continue to talk. I'm going to go get a cord, keep talking. So then what happened? I'm listening.
So I didn't like any of those answers. It was really disturbing, honestly. I felt like no one asked me about my nutrition. No one asked me about my digestion. No one asked me about my sleep. I kind of started to open my eyes as far as it seems like you're only trying to handle me externally and you're not asking about any lifestyle things whatsoever. You're pretty much just telling me take these drugs. I even said to one of the dermatologists, I was like, can you give me anything natural? Like any tips? And she was like, honestly, that's not what we're trained in. And if that's what you're looking for, you should look somewhere else. Like I appreciated her honesty. She was like, that's not what we do. So I don't know. And I was like, oh crap. So I called my mom because we had talked about going to you and Ian, and she was like, well, try one dermatologist first. And I was a little nervous to go to you because really I felt like it felt so right that I was scared to go to you because I was like, if I go and they can't help me, then I will just have lost all hope. So like I kind of kept myself from going to you guys for a little bit because I was like, well, what
Oh,
if they couldn't
interesting.
help? Like then no one could help me. And
Right.
then I
Or the
just
last resort. So I'll keep it the last resort because,
yeah.
yeah, interesting. Interesting.
So I left the dermatologist and I remember calling my mom crying, going like, I'm ready to go to True Wellness. That was terrible. I felt no heart at all. That was the coldest interaction I've ever had. That was terrible. But she was like, all right, let's go. Let's call him. So I called you guys. And that I think that was why, I mean, the first time I sat on Ian's table, I was like, oh, you're looking at me physically and energetically and emotionally and spiritually. That just seems so logical. Like it just seemed like that's why I dove in so quick because it was like, well, that just makes sense. Like I am a whole person. I mean, I was starting to get it by that point after doing yoga and kind of learning the energetic aspects. I was like, oh, these are imbalances in every body that I have. And they're actually looking at all of them. So like let's go. What do you want me to do? And I kind of just was very willing right from the start. I just felt it. And I was like, I want in. Add me to the cult. Like, give me a job. But I knew I could. I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not healed. I can't do it yet. But like, I'm going to stick around. I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, check done. You got that box. So when you say that we address physical, emotional, and vibrational, and what did you have to do? Which is funny because that's what that's my story that I asked. I said, what do I need to do to stay here, to be well? And he said, you have to be. And you had just spent 2 years on a journey by yourself. Well, over the last 3 years prior to that, really by yourself in a lot of ways. What did you learn? Well, first of all, we should give him a sense of how bad was the skin at that point for you?
I'm trying to send you a picture, the before pictures,
Just
because
hold it up. Don't send it. Just hold it up.
To be honest, I like just how kind of broken and helpless I felt. I used to Google like bad skin because I wanted to see if someone looked worse than I did. Truly, I was like, I want to see, because like you see these stupid proactive commercials, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm like, I would kill for that. I need to see like a real face, and I couldn't ever. And then I finally have found my before pictures. If you can.
Yeah, hold it up a little closer. Yeah, it's a little tough to see, but we're gonna add it, believe it or not, Sarah, at the bottom of the show notes.
I don't doubt it. And see how big. I mean, this was even like, you see my smile. Like at that point, that was probably a few months in. I was like happy with that.
Right, that was improved skin.
Like, woo, this is kind of great.
Her whole face was red, inflamed, pocky, her neck, her chest. It was as though she was on fire on the inside. There was so much redness and irritation and inflammation, and so pocky. And Sarah doesn't have a scar on her face. Like her face, her skin is just absolutely beautiful, not just 3 years later. But, everybody always asks at True Wellness, well, can you guarantee my results? I did an interview right before this for somebody who, a discovery call, somebody that wanted to be a client, and he was a little skeptical, engineer guy. I totally get why he's skeptical. I was skeptical because it doesn't make sense in science until you learn the science, and then you go, this makes all the sense in the world. This is logical. And, how can you guarantee the results? Well, I can guarantee the results because I can guarantee if you're going to do exactly what we ask you to do, that your body will regenerate and reheal. And because it's not up to me, it's up to your immune system and your innate intelligence. When I say that through Sarah's journey, she became uncomfortable at times at True Wellness, I would tell you she became uncomfortable physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. How far of a travel was it for you at the time 2
90
hours,
minutes.
90 minutes in one direction, working 5 jobs to try to make ends meet, and walking into True Wellness, cash out of pocket. Sometimes her bills, $700-800, and we're like, okay, we want to see you next week. And she's like, okay, I need a minute. I just need a minute. I don't know how I'm going to pay for today, let alone in a week from now. But I can't concern ourselves with that necessarily. And I'm not saying it's always $700 or $800 every time. She was there for 5, 6, 7 hours doing multiple therapies. But when we said this is what you need to do, Sarah found a way. She didn't use these as excuses. She didn't use her location. She didn't use her finances. She didn't use any of it as an excuse, because she was devoted to healing, and it made sense to her. It felt right. But the story, I didn't even know this story till the other day, by the way. I didn't know how she stopped wearing shoes. I honest to God didn't know. All I knew is that Sarah would come in, and we had this huge center that would do, that a lot of people do yoga. And when in between appointments, Sarah would be hanging literally upside down on her hands, or doing a handstand, or on the vibration platform, or I'm like, where's Sarah? Oh, there's her feet up in the air. There's her head down at the, okay, come on in, Sarah, it's your turn. And I just knew she was really into yoga. I knew she had traveled a lot. I knew what her heart was telling us. I knew that the skin was crying. We knew the lymph was stressed. We knew all these things, and we were chipping away at it. But I wasn't considering where she was coming from. She wanted to get better, and we gave her suggestions of what to do to get better. So who asked you that the other day when you answered that? Was it Julie?
I think it was Julie, because Julie looked at me and was like, I told her I was going to go camping, and she was like, I just don't see you sleeping in a tent. And I was like, ouch. Better than sleeping outside. But I'm a bit of an extremist. And when I had a lot of foot baths and a lot of time to sit in there, and you would always take my phone
Out of her hand, and not let people look at their cell phones. There's a reason I do that. Look at what happened. Well, you think I'm like, oh, one is it's not good for the ions. You have a ion radiating cell phone while you're trying to get ionic exchange. Come on. It's chemistry, physics, yes, but don't play against yourself. So get that out. But also take 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and be by yourself and learn and read the books. And what happened in one of those infamous foot baths of yours?
So I started reading the book. I think it was just called Earthing.
It is Earthing.
And it talked all about the ionic exchange with the earth and free radicals and being barefoot. And I was like, this is amazing. So I'm going to be barefoot from now on, not just on the grass and the earth like it was intending to be, but also like in the supermarket and at restaurants and on the sidewalk. And apparently I need to go one step further and sleep in a tent. For I think 7 months, I slept in a tent in my parents' backyard for the first probably 7 months that I was at True Wellness, because I was like, well, if my feet on the ground are good, then like my body being right up against the ground all night must be even better. So my parents there was no judgment, but I'm sure they went into their bedroom at night and went like, what is happening outside? They made me move my tent around because I was making the grass brown, those little brown chunks. But yeah, I was fascinated by it and I loved it. And it really wasn't until like September of this past year that I started like sometimes wearing shoes, just because I was told that it was a little less impact for my body and my organs, because I have a bit of a heavy heel, which Kelly knows from me walking around the office.
And it's the same as mine. I mean, Ian has complained about my heavy foot for about 28 years, and we've only been together for 25, so you do the math. He's been complaining about it forever and a day. Because we're very grounded. So you can see there's some similarities between Sarah and I, and we won't go too much into that, but I honestly feel like we're the same person, just separated by 23 years, except she's the introvert and I'm the extrovert. But we balance each other out very well, I believe, and I feel in so many ways. And when Sarah, was going through so much of her therapies, and her skin was getting better at times, and then it would get a little worse, and it was a roller coaster. Can you talk about how that was for you, and the frustration of like, here you are living completely like outside, barefoot, taking every supplement, pages of supplements that we had you taking, coming in once a week, twice a week, actually, for many months, doing nasos every single time you came in, doing lymph enhancement every time you came in, seeing me for my Oregon and wonderful emotional torture, and then seeing Ian as well, like seeing all of us every time you're there, doing all the TAMA, True Advantage membership area, doing saunas and foot baths and well, at the time we had salt chambers, and you were doing massage chairs and vibration, like you did it all. You got in.
Yeah.
What was that like? And you still weren't getting the results for how many months?
Probably like 6 months at least. I mean, again, there was like a little shift, but I started with you guys around September. That second set of pictures was from July, because that was for my sister-in-law's and my brother's wedding. I think what happened, I mean, it was overwhelming. It was like, am I always going to be like this? What am I doing to cause this? I'm living so clean now and so consciously, and I'm still not getting, like, there's a missing piece. But I will say what started to happen before my skin got better was that I remember the biggest shift being that I started to care less about what my skin looked like before it started to get better, which was an experience that I had a few years prior when I started doing yoga. I remember I was quite a bit heavier than I was now. And I always wanted to lose weight, but like it never happened. And I remember one day going, all right, I'm going to stop caring if I lose weight. I'm just going to like eat and stop when I'm full, and I'm going to have 3 meals a day instead of 6. And I'm just going to like love my body and not be attached to what happens and just see. And in about 3 months, I lost like 60 pounds and was like, oh, maybe it's about not caring and not being attached to the outcome and just seeing what happens. And the same thing happened with my skin. It was like, I stopped caring long before my skin got better because of all of the emotional work and all of the things. And that coming back to that, like, well, I need to love myself through this. And if I don't, then what does it matter anyway? So I can't look at myself in the mirror and feel like hatred and disgust. I need to like shift that. You had me start doing Joe Dispenza meditations, and I had to like, my meditation was closing my eyes and imagining I was looking in a mirror, seeing clear, beautiful skin and feeling all of those emotions. And that was that was a big shift for me, doing those meditations and just shifting my mindset around it. And I'd say that I really, it got like a little better and then a little better. But even when I started working here, it was still not great. But at that point, it wasn't really so much on my radar. I didn't really care anymore.
And now 2 years in, how many times a month do people comment on how beautiful your skin is?
It's lovely. Yeah, I mean, it still gets me. I'm still like, ooh, okay, thanks.
You know, and I do want to tie this up, but I want to just say that it's very profound what you're saying, and not to be overshadowed, that not caring about the outcome is the key. It's about the process, not about the outcome. It's about her learning how her body worked, her learning how to open her heart, her learning how to trust, her learning how to love, her learning how to let go and forgive and be okay, her letting go of all the traumas, the dramas, the pathogens, the toxicants, whatever it is we're holding on to let it be okay that right now I'm where I'm at, and down the road I might be exactly physically in the same place, but if I love myself, then it won't matter. And when I then let go of what that outcome looks like, it's amazing what happens. That it just happens because that wasn't the journey. The journey was about loving yourself, which is the point of the Beats podcast, from our heart to yours, is to get you to realize that the real journey, the real healing, the real ability for your body to turn on and have innate intelligence work for you is trusting it and knowing it and loving it and remembering that that is the part of our body that is the magic, quote unquote, of life, that it's regenerative and restoring and forgiving and doesn't abandon us and punish us for thoughts that we had. There's a little bit of a delay. We got to change our mind and then change our manifestation sometimes, but we get better and better at that creation ability and the ability to let go of past filters and traumas that keep us where we were at instead of moving us forward to where we want to be at. And we all have this ability. Some of us are better than others at trusting. Some are more devoted and more committed for various external and internal influences forcing us to show up for ourselves in a different way because we put a non-negotiable that we're just not going to feel that way, and it just can't turn out that way, and it can't be so shocking because there had to be clues there. And in hindsight, she sees the clues, and in hindsight, she looks at her life and goes, wow, I was down the wrong path. And now in foresight, where are you headed? What's the next 10, 20 years of your life look like?
Joy. I mean, to encompass all the things, I mean, I have a job, one singular job that I love that feels.
By the way, I find that very cute. You think this is one singular job. I'd say you work at one place.
Yes, I work at
I'd say she
business.
She has one location and one overseeing place, but she definitely has many jobs within that facility.
Yeah, work for one business that I'm very aligned with. Then I know that job-wise, this is where I was always supposed to be. And it feels like with all the questions I always had about how I would make money, suddenly it's like, oh, well, I know what I'm doing now. Not that it will always look like this, but I found my people and my tribe, and that's a huge weight off my shoulders so that I can just focus and get better and better. And I'm marrying my best friend, and I love my family, and I think that I've never felt so excited. I've never looked forward to what's coming as I do now.
That's pretty big. You're like, yeah, no big deal. Just, another day. I just never look forward more to my life than I do now. And as it should be for every 25-year-old. But I would like to bring everybody's attention for Debbie Downer for a minute, that since COVID has hit, the incidence of suicide has increased over 50% in women. And I did not plan on saying that with Sarah on the podcast today, but I can imagine that hits her heart pretty severely. And it's because we've lost that connection to the rest of humanity, and we've lost that connection to ourselves. And, if that's you, reach out to somebody. There are people out there that love you, that want to help you through this. And your emotions are beautiful, every one of them, good, bad, and ugly. And I would like Sarah to just speak about that for about 10 seconds, because we both have to get started with seeing beautiful clients. And with the secret that you want to give out the world, because my secret question. I don't have to tell you what my secret question is. So tell them all what the secret is that you want to share with the world, but also share, if you will, just momentarily about what that was like to feel all the emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, that was obviously the thing that occurred when I started here. I sat on Ian's table and went, my skin, and he went, it's your heart. And I went, it's my skin. And he went, it's your heart. We went back and forth, and after about 2 visits, I was like, it's my heart. Really, as much as I had confronted it, I was not willing to experience the full spectrum of emotions. I wanted some things and not others. And I felt so emotionally beaten down and numbed over and exhausted that I just kind of went well, I'll just live my life without really feeling it all. And at some point, probably only in the last year or two, I finally went oh, if I'm gonna do this, And this is what this experience as a human is for. I need to feel everything, and realizing that if you feel extreme sadness and let yourself feel it, the you'll also feel the other spectrum of overwhelming joy and passion. And like, we can't have one extreme without the other, and we can't feel one thing without feeling the opposite a little bit. So it's just being okay with feeling it and going like, even if you're angry or sad, going like, well, at least I'm alive and feeling this. I mean, this is an experience that I'm able to have. That's great. It sucks when you're overwhelmed and overworked, but we're alive and breathing, and we actually have the opportunity to feel it. And many people don't. So my secret.
What's your secret? You got a microphone, Sarah Eckhard, soon to be Sarah Mortman, and you are going to share with the world what your secret is that you and your 25 years, a quarter of a century, have come to. What is it?
I really want to, I think we should normalize saying and feeling that we are our favorite people. Like, I am my favorite person. I have an incredible boss and friend. I love my fiance, my family, all my friends, and I am my favorite.
And I love that I'm on the top of the list in that order, and I will be bringing it up to Dylan forever, and we have it on camera. Yay! Because I'm my favorite person, and Ian and Silas definitely, Sarah's right in that top group right there, because I really, there's a lot there, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why our society has kind of made that like a shameful, guilty thing to say.
The infamous guilty pleasure that we're getting rid of those words too. I'm not into that guilty pleasure business.
We seem to have told each other that that's like an ego thing, or that's narcissistic, to be like, I'm my favorite person. I like to spend time with myself the most. And I think that we all need to be okay saying that and learning that and actually feeling it, because if you're the only person you spend all of your time with. So if you don't, not just love is great and self-love is great, but like yourself, like your personality and what you do and who you are, like that's who you spend all your time with. You're your own best friend. You should be number one all the time and feel okay saying it. I would love if all of us just admitted that and actually felt that. I think we'd all be a lot healthier and happier and secure, alone and with other people.
Mic drop. From our heart to yours. Love yourself first and be your number one champion. From your heart to yours and from our heart to yours. Always here at the Beats, we're here for you. We love you all. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your raw soul and all the parts of you, and all of you, to all of our team and everything. We love you, and we're so happy to have you on the Beats today. Thank you for being a part of it.
Love you.
And for starting it, all of it.
Oh, yeah.
That too.
Happy to.
Make sure to rate us. Make sure to like us. Make sure to do all the things that Silas tells you to do. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of The Beats. And as your host, Kelly Kennedy, truly from my heart to yours, thank you for your time and your attention today. And if this did resonate with you, please do leave some comments. We would love to hear from you. And if this further you think would resonate with somebody that you know, please do go ahead and share that and hit that notification button so you know when The Beats is available to you. We do some live things every once in a while. And as always, we pray that this information today was not only foundational, but raised some questions for you and helped you be empowered to take actionable, profound steps toward regeneration, because your body is the only thing that heals. And that is our message here on The Beats. Thanks again for listening and for sharing. Have a great day.